Hey guys, welcome to Create with Krista Kirky, where I share my current ideas and creations to inspire your creativity. I also teach the valuable lessons I've learned that have helped me on my own creative journey. And I also bring on other cool collaborators so we can learn about their creative genius together. So last week, I posted on my Instagram feed that I am going through a mini rebrand where I guess this podcast, I guess, kind of started it, where the name of this podcast is Create with Krista Kirky. And so I changed my Instagram name from Created by Krista Kirky to Create with Krista Kirky, which just feels so much better for lots of reasons. We'll get to that. But I mean, I don't even know why it was created by Krista Kirky. It started 100% as a bullet journaling account, and I like saw someone else call their account Bujo, like the shortened word for bullet journaling. Bujo by Krista Kirky is what I chose. So then I was like, no, it's not that anymore. So I did Created by Krista Kirky. But honestly, like, and I like that because of the create part, right? Because I knew I just wanted something to do with creativity. But the created by Krista Kirky just like wasn't feeling it anymore, especially because of what I do. I the main thing I do in my business is create bullet journals with people. So obviously, create with Krista Kirky was the move. And so yeah, I changed it. I was like texting my sister Saturday. I was like, I'm gonna rebrand myself. They're like, so do it now. So I just decided to do it now. So that said, I almost like didn't record this podcast tonight because as part of my rebrand, I'm just like rebranding, or just, it's not a huge rebrand. It's almost just like a brand, right? Because I was like, why did I even say created by Krista Kirky? We're just like establishing the brand, right? There have always been things that I've been really into. So the reason I was like not even going to record tonight was because something that I'm really excited to do is like redo my behind me. Obviously, you can tell I like love setting up my office space. This is honestly like one of the first spaces that I set up in this house. And so, yeah, this is due for a rebrand. And so it would have been fun if that was like done behind me for this mini rebrand episode. But I'm I'm allowing myself all month, I guess you could say, for this mini rebrand. But really, if I'm gonna like be my own brand, I'm always growing. So the brand can always be growing with me. So it's not like, oh, by January 1st, my brand is going to be established and perfect and wonderful. I mean, I am going to try and get lots of things in place, I guess, by January 1st, but it's a process. So within the next little bit, you'll see my backdrop change a little bit, which I'm really excited about. So besides just the rebrand topic that I want to talk about, there's a couple other things I want to talk about. I want to do, I want to just do like an overall check-in with you all about myself. I'm going to call it like an honesty check-in. We'll get to that. So let's talk about this like mini rebrand. That's what I'm going to call it, is a mini rebrand. So I already mentioned it. I changed from Created by Krista Kirky to Create with Krista Kirky. And this was really fun for me to like sit down and be like, why is that significant? Because I actually think it's really significant. And it has to do with a topic I've talked about before, but just me really tuning into what I call my zone of genius. I learned about this in Gay Hendricks' book, The Big Leap. So read that if you want to learn more about zone of genius. But essentially, I'd say it's just, yeah, where I want to be spending my energy and what I'm good at and what provides the most value for other people that I do. So we'll start with that first word, create. It was always created, but just changed to create, which is great, right? It's like an active verb. Huh, I could be wrong. English people correct me. But anyways, create, because it's really to me all about creativity. And I've chatted about this before where I'm getting very specific on what I'm actually creating. And I consider myself a crafty girl, but I almost want to, I don't know, I might stop calling myself that. Ooh, that's weird to say. Not that I'm not a crafty girl, but I'm more of like maybe like a stationary girl that resonates with me. A journaling girl, of course, resonates with me. So I mentioned that I'm super excited to like redo my office area. Yes, the backdrop, but also just like it's a mess anyways. And so before I even have started that, I really like wrote down like what do I actually want in my office? Because, there's things all over. I'm like, this inspires me, this inspires me, this inspires me. But I would really like to just hone into like, no, this, when you look at my backdrop or when I like set up my backdrop, like that is me, is what the goal is. So for example, like you actually can't see it right now, but there's a Lego up on my shelf. It's a Harry Potter Patronus. It was blue, so I was excited about it. However, like Legos are kind of my husband's thing for Christmas. I didn't get him a Lego one year and he was so, so sad. So I learned that I'm never not going to get him a Lego again. Yeah, he got me that Lego last year for Christmas and I specifically like thought about my shelving and I was like, okay, get me Lego gay, but like I want it to be blue because like that's my colors. But I told him this year, I'm like, no, no more Legos. Like, I'm not a Lego girl. Like, that's you. I enjoy the act of building them and like building them with my kids, for my kids, or like, nah, I wouldn't ever like touch Spencer's Legos. That's his thing. Yeah, like that Lego's gonna go because like that's not really me, truly me. So as I was like writing out what I wanted in my office, journaling came up, podcasting came up. If you can't tell, I really love podcasting. So those were kind of the foundations. And then as I started kind of like listing out like down to like what stationery items and stuff are going to be in my office, I started like coming up with this list and I wrote it down. So I'm going to flip to it. These are just like, I started like figuring out who I am. And this is like obviously what I want represented in my office slash creative space. Ooh, I'm trying to decide what to call it. I think I'm gonna call it a studio because, like, in my dream home, right? I'm looking forward. Well, I guess this kind of goes back to like what I do and don't want. And I apologize. I'm like a little bit sick, but I just really wanted to record this right now. So I keep thinking about like in my next house, I would love my own office, which is gonna happen, right? I know that I want an office wherever we move, where it's like a closed office. Because if you don't already know, my office is like tucked kind of into a corner in a living space in our house, which is great. It works for now. And I thought that's what I wanted. I was like, no, I kind of like the idea of like being able to like create with my kids, I was thinking. But getting honest with myself, that's not what I want. I do want an office, and especially with podcasting, I would love a space to shut the door and like this is my office. So we're gonna get to that. And so I started thinking about that office. I was like, okay, in that office, when it's a shut door, like what's the backdrop I would want? And like, ooh, I would love like a couch for like me and a guest to sit and podcast on and stuff. And I kind of was really getting excited about that. And then I stopped myself and I was like, well, that's like me thinking about some like future house that, yes, will happen. But I was like, why don't I just do that right now? So, I mean, this setup isn't going to be perfect. I don't think I'm going to be able to like put a couch in here. Maybe I will. You'll see probably within this next month or so. I haven't really thought about that. But anyways, I'm going to try and make it so that I can accommodate a guest coming to speak with me. And yeah, I mean, these are just the things that bring me joy. So I was getting to this list I came up with of like, who am I? Like, what am I? And so let's get there. I wrote it down on a list, so I'm looking at that. And this will probably get like updated in my Instagram bio sometime soon. I should just probably do it right now, but it takes time and I'm not going to stress about doing things right now. But here's like the list I wrote out, which was inspired by me like coming up with like what I want in my office. And then it just started like, this is what I am. I'm a journaler. I'm a podcaster. So this is like, comma, journaler, comma, podcaster, comma, reader, comma, teacher, comma, designer. And then in parentheses, I put wife and mom. And and then thinking later, I added on top collaborator. So all of those words are very exciting to me. They feel like me. Yeah. Which is interesting. I didn't know that I consider myself a designer. And I honestly like volume low. What am I trying to say? The designer side of me feels very small, but I am. I think I'm a designer. So again, by saying this, I feel like it's putting it out there, bringing it out of me more. And I want to like grow and learn in that capacity more too. But yeah, I didn't really realize I was a designer, but I think it's an important part of my brand and my identity, and I want to lean into that more. So that one's interesting. But I mean, I guess to like validate myself a little bit more and go a little bit more about like why I think I am a designer. And I just looked at my notes, so that's why. Is because I literally design journals. Like, why am I so confused by me saying that I'm a designer? And then the other part of it is like, I'm almost like, well, right now I'm currently designing my brand. So fun. So I'm like a brand designer. But then the other thing is that when I create the interior of these journals, which is for sure, I would say like my zone of genius. I love being able to say that. In fact, the most recent person that I started making a custom bullet journal for, literally when they were messaging were like, well, this is your zone of genius, so you tell me. And I was like, oh, I mean, yes, I know that, but like when clients start telling you that this is your zone of genius, then like this is what you should be doing. So, anyways, the interior for sure, I've always been like, yeah, that's my zone of genius. But the exterior, I've always, I guess you could say, struggled with, not really struggled with, but like almost not felt like it's as important to me as those interior pages, which I feel like are so important. I've tried outsourcing and I have outsourced my bullet journal, which I really liked. It was really fun. But I do try and be super thoughtful about the exterior to represent the person and the journal that I'm creating. And so, yeah, I'm trying to lean into that more and get, a little bit more creative with my exteriors, my covers, because I'm a designer. I decided I'm a designer. I guess I didn't even put creator on there, but that's okay. Create with Krista Kirky. It's in my Instagram name. So I was talking about, those words, create and then with. I changed from by to with, right? Which seems significant. It's not just like created by Krista Kirky, like I did all this. I mean, yes, I have created this business, but something I decided that I feel like is almost like another zone of genius that I want to claim, I don't know, I want to say is one of my zone of geniuses, is like being able to collaborate with people. And not even that, I don't think that I'm like this pro collaborator. It's more like I have this ability to think creatively about other people's value and potential as well. Ooh, that like feels really cool to say. And so, yeah, I just have this ability to like listen to someone and see, yeah, their potential and like in a very, what's the word I want to say? win-win sort of way, right? Like, and that's why I love this business because, I'm trying to earn money, I'm trying to like grow my value, I'm trying to provide value for my family, for other people. And so I'm able to like look at another person and be like, ooh, you could help me, I could help you, like let's do this. So yes, it's a collaboration. And I mean, I'll give an example that I talked about in my first podcast episode ever that people seem to really kind of like this story. I've got lots of feedback on it of like when I started my business and my husband had just quit his full-time job. And so at that point was when I decided to start my business, pull out my savings, invest into this business. And during that time, my husband started looking for other jobs, which is great. But I decided to hire him. I like sent him 3 applications. He applied, I interviewed him, and he got all 3 jobs. He was the my assistant. He didn't love that one. He was my IT guy. That one was huge. And my accountant or something. But I've always just been able to, since the start of my business, really, just like scan the room. Not even the room, but like scan my people. Obviously, my husband's like number one. What could he do for me? Kind of, right? Like that was the question of just like, it's almost like I could use you. I want to use you is really what it is. Like I want to create with you, not use you. Those sound terrible. And so, yeah, and then like that's kind of how the first custom bullet journal I made came about, was just seeing this girl that I was doing a bullet journal party with and how cool she was and being like, yeah, we could make one together. Technically, I guess Spencer's was first, so thank you, Spencer. But yeah, so that's, I would just say, is one of my zones of geniuses, and I am going to, like I said, it's a slow process, but I'm going to try and like work to include that in my brand and how how I'm yeah, how I create this brand, establish this brand. So those feel really exciting. Creating with, creating and collaborating. I don't want to call that's too much. But the with, it actually is very significant. So another important part of my brand, and I guess like my identity, right, is this idea of honesty. I've been talking a lot about this. And so I wanted to give you kind of like an honesty update, is what I'm calling it, on just like myself in general, and then also on some things that I've talked about in previous episodes, for those of you that have listened to all of my episodes. And yeah, just give you a little update. I guess it's a little bit goes back to the branding thing, but that word create, I've decided that creating and organizing kind of go hand in hand. So a bullet journal or a journal can really organize your mind. And then I've talked about this so much, but I've been like so obsessed with Marie Kondo's book. I've always loved her book. I also really love The Home Edit. That was a show on Netflix. And they're also somebody that I follow on Instagram. They're all about organizing. And I knew in the back of my mind that I was like going to try, like, why is this so important to me? And I think I figured it out. Like, you have to be organized in order to create. And bullet journaling organizes my mind, which helps me create. So I've been really into organizing. If you saw a social media post I posted, I think last week when this episode airs, it was about how toy storage and bullet journaling are related. I think that's huge. Oh, I keep saying this, but like, I have 3 kids, yes, but literally, I've only been a mom for 3 years. And I guess basically since we've moved into this house, which has been a little over a year, that's really when like we've had like our own toys, I guess you'd say, and we've had to like clean them, organize them. And I have never been able to do that very well. And so I finally, before Christmas, right, like pulled out all their toys, organized them, and just like, and put them in bins so that I can take out one category or bin or group at a time and clean that up. And oh my gosh, that has been so huge for me. Like that has just like opened up so much brain space, helped me so much. I've really found myself enjoying like almost throughout the day taking on organizing my home as like my job, I want to say. Like, and it's funny because like last week, I literally remember having the thought, like, I wish that organizing my home could feel like it was part of my job because I mean, it's no secret that I love to pour into this business. I love to pour into my work, you could call it. And so when I had that moment, well, after I finally cleaned up my toy storage or organized the toy storage, and it just freed up all that brain space and I made the connection, I was just like, well, there you go. Like, I figured it out. Organizing is a huge part of my job because if I can't be organized in my home, then I won't have the mental space free to like work on this. And also in going through all the yeses and nos in my house, and honestly, like narrowing down, getting rid of toys, like organizing toys, helped me get really excited to organize and clean my office because I was like, ooh, like I'm just gonna get more clear and more strict on like these are my yeses, these are my nos. So it's been super fun for me lately to feel like I don't have to like work during the day, if that makes sense, if being at my computer is work. And I've actually really enjoyed working more at night, right? Like doing my computer work, I guess you'd say desk work, my making the custom journals and like podcasting, right? It's nighttime right now. Because uh, actually, this podcast, I was like, oh, I'm gonna record it tomorrow, which would mean that I would record it during naps, which honestly, they don't always like align. And I haven't really cared. I've tried not to like care that much, but it does stress me out if I'm like, oh, I want to record a podcast and they're not sleeping, then I get frustrated. But now I'm so excited for tomorrow because I decided to record this podcast tonight. So tomorrow it'll be so low key because if they do all nap at the same time, which probably will happen, it usually does happen, then I don't have to like be on my podcast or like be recording this and worry if one of them is going to wake up. I can come over to my desk and start organizing it and feel like that's part of like my workflow, I guess you'd say. So that's been super exciting. Going off of that, I kind of have this like these like pillars of myself, I guess you'd call it. And I kind of got this idea from a book I've been sort of reading. It's called Millionaire Fastlane, by Mark Mac DeMarco, I think. And it's how he talks about wealth. So he says there's the three F's of wealth. There's family, fitness, and freedom. I like that. I like that definition of wealth. I resonate with that. But I started thinking about almost like I have these three like pillars of my life, and they're a little different than his, of course. I would call it like relationships, freedom, and my body is what I want to call it. And so I wanted to give a little like honesty update on those things. Relationships, I mean, I kind of talked about this in a previous episode about community, like they're doing great. I would also encompass my relationship with God or like the universe, in that category as well. I was trying to decide if I would put like my spirit in that category. And yeah, I think I would. Yeah. So, anyways, my relationship pillar, I'm calling them my pillars. So, you got my relationship pillar, my freedom pillar, and my body pillar. I feel like my relationship pillar is amazing, thriving. We're killing it. I just like had a baby and I'm forming this relationship with this human. It's all so fun and good. And then honestly, like I do feel like the pillar, I guess, of my freedom, which to me comes down to time and money. And so I kind of am gonna just call that like my business pillar. is super solid. I have poured a lot into this. I have been able to pour a lot into this lately. My mind loves to think about my business. So it feels great. Like, and I'm making money, right? Like, of course, I have growth goals and would love to do more, but, and for the most part, like, that pillar is solid, which is so fun and exciting to me. Only gonna get better too. But like a week ago, if you were to ask me about, I tried to explain this to Spencer. I literally did this whole analogy for him. I was like, I have three pillars. This was at like right when we woke up in the morning. I feel like he was like, what are you saying to me? Anyways, I was just like, my body is in shambles, is what I told him. I was like, it is just, it felt like my body pillar was in shambles. Like later that day, I also came to him and I was just like, I feel like polymer's clay, just like out and in and out and in, right? Like my body's been stretched and expanded and contracted, I don't know, three times over now. And I was just feeling super like sad about my body, almost to the point of like feeling like I've neglected my body and feeling bad about that, which is a lot of like feelings to process. So I scheduled an appointment with my doctor. And it was technically my first postpartum visit, and it was a few weeks post the 6 week visit because that one got canceled and I was feeling fine. And it was like around Thanksgiving, and I was kind of too overwhelmed to even reschedule it. And I was like, it's fine. I've gone to those appointments before, and they literally just are like, you're good, and like send you on your way. So I didn't really want to reschedule it. But then when I was feeling that way, I was like, I'm gonna call my doctor. He was like, yeah, call your doctor. So I did. And I had that appointment yesterday, I believe. And it was a little bit like that. It was a little bit like, you're fine. You can go now. But it wasn't even with my doctor. It was a nurse practitioner that I had met a few times throughout my pregnancy, and I liked her. So I don't know. Maybe it was just me venting. I don't really know. But she was just like, yeah, you're good. She had mentioned like, we suggest waiting a year, or like we give you a full year in postpartum before recovery, which if I like think back, I've never really ever given myself a full year because I've always been pregnant within the year. So yeah, I've been through a lot. But she was like, you have a beautiful family. And I was like, I know, I know. And obviously I know that. But I still feel the gravity of what I've put my body through. But I'm gonna change the vocabulary about that now because yeah, after that appointment, I was kind of like, what am I doing? Why am I like being down on myself like this? Like, this is amazing what my body has done. Like, thank you, body. And so I'm giving myself grace, right? Like, we stopped the runs. We're just doing what feels good. And I feel good about like how I plan to take care of my body. Maybe was it in the way I thought a few weeks ago when I was like running and like gonna run a marathon, which I still think would be really fun to do, but like probably not in my wheelhouse next year. The new goal is maybe a 5K sometime next year, which sounds awesome. So that's a little like honesty update on myself. I was listening to my podcast. Sometimes I listen to these episodes, mainly just because I'm still really trying to like get a grip on how I want to approach this podcast and how I want it to be. And so, and I'm just practicing, right? It's always going to improve. But I noticed that, let's see, in a previous episode, I had mentioned a course that I was really excited about teaching. I want to talk about how that actually didn't end up happening. I posted about like teaching people how to like do this, and I don't feel like anyone seemed interested. And I realized that like that's the point of my job is people don't really want to do this. So I instead of but the cool thing is like I can look back and see like, yeah, I was really excited about my course. Instead of making a course that like people pay to like do or whatever, I did end up putting a couple videos on YouTube that explained a little bit more in depth what I do for my job, which was just like a relief for me because it makes me feel like, if someone wanted to learn to do this themselves, they could. Like I have given them that opportunity to go to my YouTube and see these things. And so, yeah, that was fun. And through that, I got connected with someone who is making the cover of my 2025 bullet journal. So that was fun. And I plan on using those videos a little bit more next year because yeah, I guess part of my rebrand, mini rebrand, I guess, is that I am going to be raising my prices next year. I'm really only saying that because yeah, it feels more aligned with the service and the capacity I'll be able to serve you guys. But that was that. I was like, hey, I'm gonna be teaching a course. That didn't really happen. So I wanted to like, again, I told you this is like an honesty update. I want to be honest with you. And I guess let me like talk about why that's important to me. I remember like launching a journal. We'll say this. This is gonna be like a little bit of a stay with me here, is all I'm trying to say. I was launching a journal. And like on my Instagram, I was like, sale ends Saturday at midnight or something, right? Like launch price is this, it's gonna close Saturday at midnight. The way I set up my sales, I actually do it manually. It doesn't like, for some reason, it's funny to try and like set things automatically on my Shopify, my website. So, anyways, I remember being like, it was like Saturday and I was gonna have to like stay up till midnight to like do this. And I was like, I don't really want to do that. And then in my head, I was also like, doesn't really even matter. Like, I kind of had this belief that like no one does even care type of thing. I didn't like that. I didn't like that I like posted like Saturday at midnight is when I'm ending the sale. And then I just like didn't even do that. I just like didn't stick to my word. And so I'm trying to be like the business owner that sticks to their word. And so, yes, podcasting is new, and I've thrown a few things out there that I haven't done. That's why I'm trying to circle back to them. And my voice is like gone. So I'll do one more like honesty update, and then I probably should just sign off. It's late, I guess. I talked about creating a paid community. I'm not going to do that anymore. Oh, because one of the things that you'll notice I did not say that I am, I kind of dropped being a coach. I know I've been like saying that, like, oh, I want to be a coach, which I'm not completely dismissing, but right now, that's not what I'm leaning into, and that's really not how I identify myself right now, which has actually been huge. That's been a part of this like rebrand, maybe, is being able to drop that and lean into the things that I'm feeling more excited about, or that I just feel like I am. And so I felt like this community I was trying to create was maybe like coming from like a coach perspective. And and then also I was like a week after I like posted that podcast or whatever, I was just like, I literally already have a community through my Instagram, just like the people around me. Like it's already here. Why am I trying to create one? Like I feel supported and I feel like there's a community here. And yeah, sure, in my future there could be like a paid community, but I don't know. Right now that doesn't feel like something I need to do because I already feel like I have a pretty awesome community. So thank you to my listeners. Thank you to my followers on Instagram. Um, so we're not doing that anymore. And then the other thing I wanted to say was that, create with Krista Kirky, right? How can you create with me? Let's make a custom journal together. That's an invitation to you. And the other way we can create together is we can podcast together. So right now I'm just reaching out to people that I want to be on my podcast. But if you want to be on my podcast, let me know. And if I've reached out to you, that means I'm really excited for you to be on here with me. So come create with me. Those are the ways you can do that right now. I'm leaning into the journaling and the podcasting and the organizing. It's been really fun. And I'm looking at my notes. And I think that's it. Oh, one more note I have here. Following my gut, intuition, the spirit. Yeah, I just feel like what's been really fun about my business is I've been able to just really tap into like my gut is what I want to call it. Intuition. I've gotten pretty good at knowing when something feels right in my business and going with it. And I've also gotten pretty good at knowing when things don't feel right and like allowing that and letting myself sit on things for a little bit. So that's really fun. So hopefully you're creating enough that you start getting familiar with that feeling of like, this feels good and right. And then when things like are frustrating or not working, and then that's not how it should go. So we'll end with that thought. Follow your gut, follow your creativity. And if the creativity is gone and not working, then just let it sit for a little and then you'll find your way to the other cool creative things that you can do. So thanks for listening to my little rebrand. Oh, one more update, to be honest with myself, right? I do feel like podcasting is fun and, dare I say, easy for me. I can kind of whip these out pretty fast. And since creating with people is really important to me, and I'm excited about all the cool creators we have, but then also, like, I like to podcast and chat by myself. I do feel good about posting twice a week. And on the last episode, I said Mondays and Saturdays is when I will update my podcast. But I'm going to switch that to Tuesdays. So Tuesdays are when the episodes will come out with co-creators, which feels really good. And then I'm not 100%. It's either going to be Friday or Saturday. Ideally, I would like it to be Friday, but we'll see. I'm experimenting. Ooh, I just talked about this with Megan. She's going to be on our next guest. Go get her, girl. Shout out. About experimenting. So I'm experimenting between Friday and Saturday of when, my personal, I guess you'd say, podcast comes out. So yes, twice a week. And then of course, like holidays and stuff. But I'm gonna be trying to be really honest about like if I'm not podcasting, I'm not podcasting this week, I really like the creators that are super consistent and like give us a heads up, right? It's all about honesty. That's how I want to run my business. I want you to know, like, okay, every Tuesday there's going to be a podcast with a cool guest on Chris's podcast. So put it in your calendar. And then if not, I will tell you in advance, at least if you follow me on Instagram. So there's my updates. I think I'm done. Let me go rest. But that was really fun. You know who's going to be on our next episode. On Tuesday, listen for a really cool creator who's going to help us, who already has helped me after I talked to her. I'm like, oh, yes. Think about our goals for the new year, right? My bullet journal girlies especially. I'm all about the goals in my bullet journal. So get ready for that episode and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.